Graveyard, recast it. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, fuck.
Hi, I'm Jake. I just got back from MagicCon, and it was an amazing experience. You can see in front of me, my table here is just littered with piles of cards from the last minute deck building and refinement I did before heading to the con. Loading up rare binders, making sure all of my commander decks are working in peak condition. But across all of those experiences, there's a couple of things that are real highlights to me. And the first is just meeting people in person. If I saw you at the con, if you came up and said hi, it was really nice to meet you. And it was super fun to see a lot of people face to face that I pretty much have only ever met through a screen. I had a couple of different promo cards that I was giving out over the course of the weekend. And if you do see me in person, come up and say hi. I usually have something to give away, and it's great to meet new people. But the second highlight of my weekend, above all, I think, was the last event that I did. Literally packed up my bag afterwards, walked out the door, and drove off. So the last thing that I did was the Two-Headed Giant Unknown event on Sunday. Big thanks to Gavin Verrey, Mark Rosewater, everyone that made that event possible. It was just, I cherished that. It was so much fun. Essentially, the event was a Two-Headed Giant Commander event. I don't think that we knew it was Commander at the time of signing up, but we each got 6 booster packs from the Mystery Booster 2 Convention Edition box. And so each one of those packs had 10 cards, 2 of each color from throughout Magic's history, in their original templating and frame. As someone that's been playing Magic for a very long time, that is super special to me. I love the lore and the story of Magic. 2 of the cards that I set aside just because, even artistically, it's really fun to see the Coalition relic and then the Relic of Legends being the same relic, just with the time difference between them. And it's really cool seeing that story come to life in a single pack, kind of time traveling through the last 30 years. But the last few cards in the pack are also a little unique. They contain some of the most divisive frames from throughout Magic's history. The first is the white bordered frame, and this is with the modern frame, just with the border in white. And it's really cool in its uniqueness, but there's a reason why they got rid of the white border, and it's because a lot of people didn't care for it. It scuffs easily. You can see the wear, and it builds up dirt. And it's fun to see that come back. And it's really cool to see a positive reaction to it. And similarly, you have the Future Sight frame, which was divisive at the time, moving the mana cost to the other side of the card and looking a little more mechanical. I think there was a fair amount of criticism when this originally came out. But again, seeing it come back to the joy of the people that enjoy it is really special to me. The last card in the Mystery Booster packs, though, is my favorite part. And that is the playtest cards. These are cards that sort of work within the rules of Magic. Not exactly, but it doesn't take much to fit the rules around them. And some of the cards are fully functional within the rules of Magic and are just kind of a pun or a play on words. A lot of these require you to put in tokens that don't exist or do things that are within the game but a little bit unique relative to the regular rules. So this isn't quite unset level of ridiculous, but it does have some of that same feel. In this particular event, however, they decided that these playtest cards simply weren't enough. And so on top of the Mystery Booster packs that we received, they gave us a second stack. A few extra playtest cards. And these are actually playtest cards, actual stickers stuck to real Magic cards. I don't know what the cards are. I'm assuming they're all basic lands, though it would be funny if they were all mana crypts. But each of these cards are much closer to the level of play that we see in the different unsets. And for this event, many of them were also legendary. So with this many special playtest legendary creatures, one would think that we would be running commanders from those cards, especially given my general affinity for playtest cards and my enjoyment for this event overall. But as my wife and I went through our cards and figured out how we wanted to build our decks, we decided that one of the funniest things that we could do is the exact opposite. And so we took two of the strongest commanders from all of Magic's history and loaded our deck up with as many playtest or uncards as made sense, and we played this game Leovold and Prosh. And these two decks, as it turns out, when they work together, isn't even close to being fair. Leovold can load up with control magic and counter spells and feed cards to the Prosh deck, while denying our opponents the ability to draw extra cards or even stabilize the board. It is a ton of fun, and we didn't actually drop a game. So we had a really good time, but I think that one of my favorite parts in the entire event was due to one particular card that I got. And with the prevalence of the Sharpie Cube online, they decided it was the right time to print a sharp eraser. You see, this artifact, though a little expensive, allows you to flip cards off the top of your library until you reveal a non-land card. Then, remove as many words from that card as you want and cast it without paying its mana cost. So the first hurdle here is mana. 6 mana is a lot to get to and can be kind of tricky. Fortunately, we got a Tinker, and we got a few other things that allow us to go hunting for this card. So in a control deck with a lot of different artifacts that do different things, and a very sharp eraser, how do we win? Well, we have a couple cards that actually have the text. You win the game on them. So that flip is an auto win. Another flip is the rack. If we strategically erase words off of this card, depending on how flexible you want to be, you could have it deal 2,024 damage, given the card text at the bottom. But what if we don't luck into cards that instantly win us the game? Well, we had one such question. And fortunately, Mark Rosewater was standing right at the end of the table, so we were able to ask his opinion. And what we ended up doing was using a cute little card that makes a copy of a non-land permanent in play, Clever Imposter. And when we flipped into Clever Imposter, we were able to turn it into a copy of Narset. And Narset, allowing us to cast things from the graveyard, really turned the tide in our favor. And I believe this was the first time in the tournament that Leovold went aggro. And boy, did it. On our next turn, we were able to attack with our copy of Narset and use Sharp Eraser to flip into a Rewind. And well, I think it's more fun if I just show you the event live.
Still on the stack, okay? So you're gonna cast Rewind with the new text,
Casting
right?
Rewind, we've modified the text.
Yes, we've modified the text.
We have modified
now
it.
we're gonna resolve the effects.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and 4.
There it is. That's 4 lands.
All right,
Okay, Rewind resolved?
Rewind resolved.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, I would like to move to combat.
Sure, you got it, yeah?
Okay.
All right, let's see it.
Attack with my Narset.
I know, right?
I'll attack with all 4 of my creatures.
Declare no blocks.
No
Sounds
blocks.
good. Wait, we have a trigger.
We have a
Narset
trigger.
allows me to exile an instant in my graveyard and recast it. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Ah, fuck! In response, I'm gonna target your Deathrite Shaman trigger on the stack. We're gonna pay 2 life.
I honestly don't think there is a better feeling than having that experience, playing unique playtest cards that have never been seen before, using interactions that don't actually exist within the game, while sitting next to the lead designer of Magic the Gathering. It was just surreal. It was so fun, and I had a really, really good time. But it got me thinking about these playtest cards and these mechanics that don't really work within the rules of Magic as it exists now, but could potentially in the future. Because this isn't the first time we've seen cards go from not existing in Magic, can't existing in Magic, to being in a regular set, a standard set in some cases, right? The Cheese Stands Alone became a real card. The Earl of Squirrel has been made mechanically correct on other cards. There's a lot of uncards that can exist in Magic. Uncards that don't break the game. Playtest cards that add mechanics that later were included in regular sets. And I think we see the same thing with a lot of the Universe Beyond cards. These mechanics that don't actually exist in the game. Right? More Than Meets the Eye. Living Metal. Some of the older ones, like the Squad ability, I believe, was first debuted in a Universes Beyond set. And now we see some of those in regular sets. Some of the partner mechanics and some of the plane chase mechanics can't really exist in the main game of Magic, but they do exist on black border cards. They do exist on things that can be run in Commander, in Modern Legacy, and coming up soon in Standard. And whatever your opinions are on Universes Beyond being added to Standard, it does mean there's going to be a lot of new mechanics that kind of function like these playtest cards. Mechanics that don't conventionally exist within Magic. Radiation counters. I think there's a lot of design space that is currently captured in Universes Beyond. And my favorite aspect of it is that that design space allows the people who make Magic cards to tailor the game for these new experiences and unique experiences that change the way that we play the game overall. My biggest fear with Universes Beyond being moved into Standard is that we lose some of that novelty. Because now those mechanics don't exist in a vacuum, right? They're not thrown into the pile of legacy cards with astronomically high power levels, where it doesn't even matter if the card is game breaking because it's probably not good enough to be used in a deck. If these cards are still dwarfed by the power of Leovold and Prosh, what chance do they stand in an open, competitive EDH environment? But in Standard, there is no Leovold and Prosh. You're not buffered in a four-person collaborative game where you can all converge on one player that's getting a little too far ahead. In principle, I love the idea of pushing the boundaries of the design space of the game, making new cards that do strange things, interact with new zones, like companions, like a lot of the other aspects in the game that we see printed in Standard sets. But with more and more sets coming out, I think this becomes more difficult to balance. And Foundations is something that I'm very excited for as forming a good foundation for Standard. But what we build atop that will depend heavily on what we find in these Universes Beyond products. Because up until this point, Universes Beyond has essentially been the new unsets. It is the design space in which they make new cards with unique mechanics that can't exist within regular Magic. It was a safe space to test these designs. But now the guardrails are off. And I don't think we necessarily see in the latest Universes Beyond sets any convergence to safer design. We still see a lot of the boundary-pushing aspects of the game. And I find that really cool. Putting that into Standard very much changes the landscape of Standard. All that to say, I really love these playtest cards. I loved the Unknown event at MagicCon. I had a great time playing with so many different people and trying so many different decks. And I think there's a lot of cards in here that still function. And I'm very tempted to build a couple Rule Zero decks that utilize some of these mechanics and some of these legendary creatures. And I would encourage you to do the same. Have a weird night where every card is legal. Every unset, every playtest card, everything. Open it up and try it out. It's going to be weird, and there's going to be some rules interactions that don't have a real answer. But I think that that is part of the fun. And at least as a one-off, it's an amazing experience. And hey, if you went to MagicCon, I would love to hear what your favorite experience was. And if you played in one of the unknown events, I want to hear what your weirdest interaction was. Which rules tangle you had to gently unweave, where you call over a judge and they had to call over 3 other judges to figure out what happened. I want to know which was your favorite playtest card. Which one just lit up and begged you to play it. I think we all have experiences that stick with us. And I would encourage you to stick around. Next week, I have a special episode of The Decks That Made Us, where we talk about a couple of these decks that just stick with us, that we design over a period of years. The decks we fall in love with, and the decks that we take to every convention. So subscribe, and I'll see you next week. So, do you want to explain the deck that you'll be playing and kind of walk through what this game might look like?
Yeah, brother.